Good afternoon. We're at the top of the hour. We'll get started in just a moment. Thanks all for joining. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Well, welcome and good afternoon, and welcome to the New Jersey Transit Draft Sustainability Plan public webinar. We're very excited to share the latest process and where we stand with the Draft Sustainability Plan. And so with that, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we'd like to do a quick WebEx orientation. As you've joined, your video has been disabled and the audio line is muted throughout the presentation. If you have questions throughout the meeting, feel free to use the chat, which I'll be reviewing throughout the meeting. We do have time reserved for public comment after the presentation. At that time, raise your hand to queue for public comment, and that icon is found at the lower toolbar of the WebEx screen. If you're having audio issues throughout the meeting, the audio settings can be changed by clicking the three dots next to the X to change the audio settings as needed. A little bit more about the engagement for this afternoon. To promote engagement, there will be live polling at the end of the presentation. So have your smartphone handy or a browser screen open to participate at that moment. Following the presentation, we'll have time reserved for public comment, specifically for feedback about the draft sustainability plan. To queue to speak, raise your hand or press *3 if you're calling in. Each participant will have one opportunity to speak, and to be considerate of those queues, please keep your comments to 2 minutes. Furthermore, the chat is available if you're experiencing technical issues, and I'll be reviewing that as I stated earlier. Now I'd like to turn it over to David Sotland with New Jersey Transit, Energy, and Sustainability.
Thank you, Liz. And good afternoon. First, I want to say that we really appreciate that you are on the call with us today. Today's webinar will cover the following. We're going to do a welcome and introductions, sustainability plan development process. We're going to talk about that, plan highlights, and comments and next steps. Next slide, please. With me today are John, Aaron, and Harrison from the New Jersey Transit Energy and Sustainability team. We also have with us Pam, Audrey, and Liz from the HGR team. HGR is providing overall project management. Additionally, Stokes is supporting the project with external stakeholder engagement, and BEM is assisting with data management. With the newly formed Sustainability Leadership Committee's help and guided by the Sustainability Plan, it is our intention that the sustainability's efforts in our organization will be institutionalized in a manner that will improve project quality and timeliness, allow for the ongoing development of new projects and programs, and ensure that each initiative is executed as planned and performance is maintained throughout its useful life. As we go through this presentation, you will hear that the plan is a living document that will be revisited regularly. It establishes metrics and targets that are realistic for where we are now. We also wanted to share some of the challenges we have had, such as in the data collection effort and in the establishment of targets. As you can see, the plan development is separated into two phases. We're currently in phase 2 of the project. We began by aligning on priority sustainability issues through a materiality assessment, benchmarking of peer transit agencies, and development of a sustainability inventory. We want to ensure that we are working on the issues that matter most for our agency, our employees, our customers, and the communities that we serve. We initiated data collection in the early stages of the project to help ensure that the metrics and goals for the plan are generally measurable based on data that is available today. It also helped us identify areas where we needed to focus on data collection moving forward. We have collaborated to construct a sustainability framework that is goal-oriented with clearly defined performance indicators, operational metrics, and strategies. And with the creation of the Sustainability Leadership Committee, we established a governance structure for the oversight of our long-term sustainability goals and implementation of the sustainability plan. We set a vision for the sustainability plan, including branding concept, tone, messaging, and communication techniques. And now we have a draft plan. This is our fourth and final webinar for the plan. We have agreement on 7 themes. We added climate resilience based on stakeholder priorities. In our development process, we conducted a survey. This was announced through a press release, discussed during a webinar, posted on the New Jersey Transit website, promoted on digital display boards, and also on social media. We conducted interviews with over 50 New Jersey Transit subject matter experts, and our feedback results included comments such as review transit agencies outside of the United States, improving bus routes, and looking at first and last mile initiatives. Hopefully, you have had the opportunity by now to see the draft plan through our website. We'll touch on some of the highlights and key points. We're excited that we're at this point and what we've created so far. Our vision, which is highlighted in the plan, states the following: be a leader in sustainable public transportation for the benefit of our customers, our employees, our communities, and our planet. Next slide. We also wanted to highlight in the plan how large and complex of an organization New Jersey Transit is. The plan discusses how different facilities have nuances for how they collect data, and this creates challenges in the data collection efforts. The plan also points out many of the good things that we are already doing for sustainability in our spotlight discussions. New Jersey Transit is the largest statewide public transit agency in the country. And because so many people ride with us, we make a significant positive impact on the environment. Utilizing New Jersey Transit displaced about 3.7 million tons of CO2e in 2019. Another point that is highlighted in the plan. Now I'm going to turn it over to Aaron, who will provide more insight. Thank you. And once again, thank you for your time today. Aaron.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks everyone for joining. So this graphic illustrates all the strategic steps and multiple points of stakeholder input to develop New Jersey Transit's first ever sustainability plan. Again, we began by looking at best practices and benchmarking our peer agencies. We looked at transit agencies in the US and abroad, and we established a survey from our stakeholders to establish 7 themes. We then developed a framework, established a sustainability leadership committee, and now we have our draft plan. We'll gather your feedback today, as well as the online comment form, to produce our final sustainability plan. Next slide. So all the efforts on the previous slide have established these 7 themes for inclusion in the plan. And our framework, which is the base of the plan, organizes each theme by goal statement, aspects, targets, actions, and metrics. So the goal statement is the broad statement for what we want to achieve. Aspects are areas to focus to achieve the goal. Targets are the short-term or long-term strategies to achieve the goal. And the actions are the tactics to achieve the goal. Additionally, we have metrics, which will be the measurements of progress and success. Next slide. The data collection process and analysis has been a huge undertaking and a vital part of NJ Transit's first sustainability plan. We began by collecting certain metrics to comply with APTA's, the American Public Transportation Association, sustainability commitment. We collected data from our fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2022. Obtaining these baseline data metrics will help us ensure that the metrics and goals for the plan are generally measurable, and it's important for us to understand where we are in order for us to track progress. We found that there are a lot of challenges in gathering data for an organization from our size, from gathering data from all the various vendors, our different sources, our different business units of bus, rail, light rail, access link, and we found that there was, a lack of data for certain themes, such as waste. We then used then each metric was normalized by passenger miles traveled. We've seen a variation in some of our data due to COVID, particularly ridership. So that's why measuring and establishing baseline metrics will be a challenge and has been a challenge. This is why we hope to collect and assess more data going forward before setting quantifiable targets for certain themes. So right now, the benchmark numbers for each theme are listed as pending in the draft plan. We will release actual numbers in the final plan. We kept the numbers pending in the draft plan to ensure our methodology and the calculation methods used. Next slide. So here in the draft plan, we kind of followed the same format for each theme. The framework, we have a spotlight, and then we have a where are we now with the baseline metrics. So you'll notice throughout that if a target is from a law, our strategic plan, or a state plan, it is noted with parentheses. There is an asterisk by a metric, which indicates it will be reported as a part of that APTA sustainability commitment. So first up, we have energy. You've seen a version of this framework before, and since then it's been revised based on the feedback we received from our last public webinar. You'll notice our actions outside of our zero emission vehicles include fostering renewable energy and energy efficiency. Next slide. The spotlight for energy focuses on decarbonization, which is a key component of the state's energy master plan. So for the spotlight, we touch on our transition to a zero emission bus fleet, and that we've begun deployments at our Newton garage in Camden, New Jersey, and up next is our Hilton garage in Maplewood. We are also exploring the feasibility of battery electric trains, and we continue to participate in state energy efficiency programs, such as the Local Government Energy Audit Program and the Large Energy Users Program. Next slide. Right now our metrics are preliminary, and we will release the actual numbers in the final plan. For the benchmark for energy use, we gathered data from all our different various sources and then converted it into MMBTU, or metric million British thermal units. Next slide. For air quality, here are our targets, and we will establish a greenhouse reduction goal by 2025 and evaluate a criteria air pollutant reduction goal by 2025. Setting this goal will take some time, and we need to evaluate where we are and collect fiscal year 2023 data to fully assess the impacts from COVID. Additionally, we need to evaluate all our realistic pathways for reduction. Next slide. New Jersey Transit is committed to advancing environmental justice and equity. We will continue to prioritize disadvantaged communities who bear the burden of the ongoing effects of climate change and bring cleaner air to those communities through our zero-emission bus deployments. Additionally, New Jersey Transit bus redesign efforts consider customers' needs to identify opportunities for improvements and system efficiency. Next slide. The baseline metrics for air quality are metric tons of CO2e produced and metric tons of CO2e displaced. The total grams of CO2e were converted into CO2e tons and normalized using passenger miles traveled. To obtain the produce amount of metric tons, this comes from our Scope 1 emissions and Scope 2. So Scope 1 emissions are our direct greenhouse gases from the sources that are controlled and owned by New Jersey Transit, as well as Scope 2 are all the indirect greenhouse gas emissions, which is associated from the purchasing of electricity, steam, heat, or cooling. Next, we have the displaced calculation, and this comes from 3 components. First is transportation efficiency, or mode shift. So this is the savings that come from the avoided car trips from a personal vehicle to those switching to transit. Next, we have land use efficiency. So this is the emissions that is promoted by enabling denser land use patterns that promote walking or cycling and shorter trips. So transit really helps reduce car use by increasing land use efficiency. And the last component is congestion relief. So this is improvement due to traffic flow and fuel efficiency due to fewer drivers and vehicles on the roadway, and also includes reduction in idling. Next, we have mobility and accessibility. You'll notice a lot of these targets are directly from New Jersey Transit's 10-year strategic plan, or NJT 2030. And the aspects here are to enhance connectivity and equitable access. Next slide. Our spotlight here is on first and last mile initiatives. And New Jersey Transit already has a lot of great initiatives related to mobility and accessibility. One being that first and last mile initiative. So we have the goal to connect customers in the first and last mile, which is key. We are piloting electric automated passenger shuttles. We are increasing biking with greater storage and bike sheds, as well as increasing assistance to serve the elderly and individuals with disabilities, as well as we are developing partnerships with companies such as Uber and Lyft. Next slide. Additionally, other initiatives include Magnus Mode, which is a new digital initiative making riding transit easier for our neurodiverse communities. In April of 2023, New Jersey Transit deployed a survey to learn how transit can support safer access to our facilities for our cyclists, scooter riders, and pedestrians. Mobility and accessibility is not required to be reported by APTA's sustainability commitment. So since this is a more qualitative theme, we will explore how to establish metrics and track progress in the future. Moving on, we have the theme of climate resilience, and here the goal is to enhance the system's resilience to extreme climate events. There are no targets in action listed currently because New Jersey Transit will be taking guidance from the state's efforts and our resilience program. And I'll speak more about the state's efforts on the next slide. So resilience and strengthening our infrastructure has already been a priority for New Jersey Transit. And we have major resiliency projects, including long slip at Hoboken Yard, the Raritan River Drawbridge, and flood protection work at our Meadow Maintenance Complex. So where are we now? New Jersey Transit is playing an active role in the state's resilience action planning. This effort, which will plan to address the climate change effects such as rising temperature, sea level rise, decreased water quality, drought, increased precipitation, ocean acidification, and extreme weather. That first action plan will focus on extreme heat. Additionally, our resilience program is working to establish baselines for a broad number of New Jersey Transit assets. Here we have waste. This theme was definitely the most challenging in collecting our data. Hence, we will be evaluating a waste diversion goal by 2025 and evaluating a construction and demolition goal by 2025. Here, some key actions will be improving our standardization and education relating to landfill diversion, reuse, and recycling. And we'll need to overcome our challenges with our data collection. The spotlight here is resource conservation. all of New Jersey Transit buses are equipped with a 3-minute timer that will shut off the engine after 3 minutes of idling. This helps reduce our emissions and conserve fuel. Where are we now with waste? So New Jersey Transit does have a lot of unique waste streams, some which we do recycle, such as batteries and scrap metal. And we have to address the challenges of accurately collecting all this waste data in order to set meaningful targets. We were unable to get accurate data for 2019, so we will work with our vendors going forward to try to overcome these data gaps. I'm now going to pass it to Harrison.
Sure, thanks so much, Aaron. Moving on to the theme of water, water conservation and efficiency will become increasingly important as water scarcity increases globally, and we want to do our part in improving in these areas. So this theme calls on NJ Transit to establish baselines for water consumption, incorporate best practices in water conservation, measure progress over time, and ensure that our water discharge from facilities and operations are properly managed. So we want to spotlight sustainable design for the water theme and call out the work we've done in designing Northern Bus Garage to include water conservation and intelligent water quality management. Additionally, we reuse water in our bus washing system at Wayne Bus Garage, which helps us maximize the recycling and reuse of water. So where does this lead us to today? Facility level utility bills were analyzed for 2019 and 2022 to establish baseline data. This data was converted to average gallons per day and extrapolated to estimate gallons per year per facility. So gallons per year were averaged to estimate usage per year and establish our baseline for the water theme. Community engagement is also an important theme in the sustainability plan, and you may notice that for this theme, we included more qualitative descriptions of our efforts rather than quantitative descriptors. When talking about successes in community engagement, the successes and impacts of the relationships that we build with our communities, that's the highlight rather than the number of relationships that we build. An important highlight here under community engagement is transit-oriented development. This is an important tool in our kit of community and transportation strengthening. There are plenty of TOD projects in the works, and NJ Transit is working closely with developers on NJ Transit-owned property and NJ Transit-adjacent properties. To date, we have engaged with more than 40 communities to collaborate on 70+ projects and intend to continue the good work. So community engagement is critical to the successes of New Jersey Transit and will continue to play a key role as we build additional robust relationships with customers, elected officials, advocates, and community-based organizations. And our aim is to learn more about how we can grow as an organization and grow our communities along the way. So as a nice summary, this section of the plan outlines snapshots of the benefits to NJ Transit, to our customers, and to the region of our efforts in sustainability under the themes discussed in the report. This is not an exhaustive list of all of the possible benefits to each of the stakeholder categories listed here. Rather, it's a high-level overview of some of the important ones that we think should be highlighted. Next slide, please. Our next steps are to incorporate all of the great feedback we've received from public comments and from this webinar, continue ongoing meetings with the Sustainability Leadership Committee, finalize data points for addition to the plan, and build a strong platform for meeting the goals and objectives of the plan. So before we turn things back to HDR for some live polling, just an outline of a timeline here. So today, we're all participating in the public webinar. On July 7th, the public comment period closes. So if you do have comments that you'd like to submit in writing or over the phone, please make sure you do so before July 7th. And then between the unveiling of the sustainability plan, we will work internally to finalize that plan for unveiling in the fall of this year. And now I'll turn things back over to HDR to open it up for a live polling. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, Harrison. And Thank you for the great presentation on where we stand. So now we would like to get some feedback from you all that are joining through some live polling. So we'll be using Mentimeter. So you can either scan the code or I put it in the chat. And then in addition, the live polling, you can go to the website www.menti.com with the code 51324879. And the first question is to rank your agreeance or disagreeance on the sustainability plan to achieve the vision. As a reminder, the vision is to be a leader in sustainable public transportation for the benefit of our customers, our employees, our communities, and our planet. So I'll give you a moment to fill out that poll. And again, the code is 51324879 at menti.com, and you can also click the link in the chat. So it looks like we're getting some responses in. So I'll just drag over to see some of the feedback. And it looks like it's a general scale of 3 out of 5 thus far, with some folks closer to the 4 end. So I'll give a moment to collect some of that feedback and really appreciate your initial take. And as a reminder, while we reviewed the highlights of the plan, you can also go to New Jersey Transit's website under sustainability and see the full plan for download. And I'll touch on additional opportunities for public comment. Okay, so it looks like we're settling at a 3.5. So thank you for that feedback. And that's definitely good to see that we're achieving the vision, definitely areas of growth. So thank you. And so to dig in a little bit more, would like to look at specifically strengths. So after the review, either on your own or after hearing New Jersey Transit talk through the highlights of the plan, what are the strengths that you see outlined? This response is a bit more, gives you a bit more space for description. So take your time to give a response or one word if that's suitable as well for you, something that resonates as a strength from this presentation and from reading it on your own. So we're seeing some feedback come in specifically about the review of national and international best practices. That's great to hear. As early on our survey, we heard the importance of really looking internationally and where we stack up, so to speak, as far as transit agencies. In addition, multifaceted plan to achieve sustainability with an emphasis on community engagement. Yes, community engagement has been important throughout the development of the plan and will be a continued importance to execute the plan as it is one of our 7 themes. It's like we've got some more options coming through here with the zero emission bus focus on disadvantaged communities. A note on data, totally understandable. And as Erin mentioned, it's pending right now and will be released with the final plan. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so thank you for those responses. And we have one more live polling question on the flip side of areas of improvement. So on the previous one mentioned those, it would be nice to see data. So things of that nature, areas of improvement that we can capture. And then following this polling question, we'll move to our public comment section of this webinar. Okay, thank you for submitting these responses so far. So we're seeing better bike infrastructure, looking like ridership increase, prioritize of that. So that's overall improvements to sustainability. Statements of size and ranking of New Jersey Transit compared to its peers. Making sure the plan connects to capital planning. definitely a priority and something that we note in the early sections of the plan. So encourage reading there too to see if that meets your needs. Creating more ways to attract commuters, I think that's in hand with increasing ridership. We'll give one more moment. Here we go. More detail on resilience on the resilience project. Bike paths to transit center. So again, that first and last mile that we noted on earlier. Okay, so thank you for give 1 minute, 1 moment, and then we'll shift to our public comment. Really appreciate you all taking the time for these live polling. It's definitely helpful to get a mixed variety of feedback as we work to finalize our plan. And speaking of public comment, I would like to note on the different opportunities and channels that you can submit a public comment. So the public comment period is open through July 7th, so the Friday after the holiday. And you can go ahead and submit a public comment through the website, which there's a comment form as shown on the right just below this plan. And again, that's newjerseytransit.com/sustainability plan. We also have a voicemail set up for submitting public comment in Spanish or in English, and that number is 862-236-1750. And then we will be taking comments at the public webinar. So we've got multiple channels to submit public comment, and really interested to hear what we've received thus far. And then, as Harrison mentioned in the follow-up comments, we will then be finalizing the plan for some unveiling in the fall. So now I'd like to take a moment for public comment. If you would like to share your comment on the draft sustainability plan specifically, go ahead and raise your hand or press *3 to queue for public comment. And again, please, we'll be taking one comment per person, and please keep your comments to about 2 minutes to be considerate of everyone that's joined today. I'm getting a comment that there may be issues to be able to raise hand. Let me just check those settings to confirm that. Okay, so I'm getting a couple comments. So I'm just going to go ahead and take down my screen really quick just to check the settings. Apologies. While we're waiting, if you would like to raise your hand, just go ahead and go ahead and put that in the chat while I resolve that just that tech issue. There we go. Okay, you should all see the raise hand function. Again, apologies. Okay, thank you for confirming that in the chat. Okay, so we have a couple raised hands. Ken, I see that your hand is raised. I'll go ahead and Ken Dolsky, I'll send you a request to unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to comment on the relationship of what's being developed under the Transit Grid project compared to some of the themes and targets and objectives that you have overall in the sustainability plan. One of the issues with transit grid, which actually Mr. Geithner told us when we had a meeting with him a few weeks ago, was that New Jersey Transit is technology agnostic on transit grid. So being technology agnostic means you're willing to accept almost any technology if it's financially attractive. This is completely incompatible with improving sustainability, which includes reducing greenhouse gases and reducing air pollutants. If transit wants to be technology agnostic to give its bidders freedom to make the best recommendations, then it must modify its RFP to include specific limits on greenhouse gases and air pollution emissions allowed for the project. With no limits on either, and saying 100% clean energy by 2050, which is virtually worthless as a limitation, basically you're saying that you're willing to consider any heavily polluting solution, even theoretically a coal-fired power plant. So my basic comment is, if you want to say you're technology agnostic, you need to put the boundaries in that relate to sustainability. In this case, mainly greenhouse gas and toxic, air pollution elements. And if you control those properly in the RFP, then you have the freedom to say that you're technology agnostic. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken, for your comment. I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand. Okay, next comment is from Richard Grant. Richard, I'll go ahead and send you a request to unmute. Richard, I'll go ahead and send you another request to unmute to see if you're able to unmute your line. Richard, are you having an issue? If so, go ahead and put it in the chat and we can work to resolve that. I'll just third time's a charm, maybe. I'll go ahead and send you another request to unmute. Okay, Richard, I'm not hearing anything on your end. Sounds good. You'll go ahead and use the chat and we'll capture that. Thank you for that note. So I'll go ahead and lower your hand. Okay, as a reminder, you can go ahead and raise your hand with the icon below or press *3 if you're calling in for a public comment. Okay. Richard, thank you for submitting the comment through the chat. So I'll just go ahead and read it for the record. Your first point is, in a future time of expected reduced funding for New Jersey Transit, what priority will the agency give to meeting or even exceeding sustainability goals versus the rest of the agency's operating and capital expenses? Number 2 is, to what extent, if any, will New Jersey Transit Board of Directors have a role and responsibilities under the sustainability plan, such as its review and approval of capital projects? 3, will achieving the goals of all the plan's 7 themes get equal priority, or are they ranked in a way based on the results they would have be expected to achieve? Number 4, air quality theme. In establishing a GHG reduction goal by 2025, will you include scope 3 emissions, and will you separately report scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, which some definite this way? Scope 3 Scope 3 emissions are the result of activities from assets not owned or controlled by reporting organizations, but the organization indirectly affects its value chain. APTA on quantifying greenhouse gas emissions. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Richard. APTA on quantifying greenhouse gas emissions from transit. Agencies can follow the guidance provided here to better understand and identify methods for measuring emissions in their value chain. For purposes of consistency among transit agencies and other reporters, these Scope 3 emissions must clearly be separated from Scope 1 and 2 emissions, and specific emission types under Scope 3 must be clearly itemized. Number 5, hopefully you're aware of the 2012 climate resilience study done by First Environment and will use it or update it or supersede it. Number 6, if you purchase and operate data management platform, why would you only produce a new edition of the plan every 3 years? And that concludes Richard Grant's comment. The next hand is Raphael Wakefield. I see your hand raised. I'll go ahead and send you a request to unmute. Hello, can you, Raphael, are you able to share your comment? It's like you're unmuted on my end. If you're speaking, we can't hear you, but I see that you're unmuted. Oh, looks like you just pre-muted, so let me go and send you another request.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can.
All right, great. I can hear you. Good. So basically, I think you referred to this briefly about this. It's not actually in the draft plan, but this idea of I guess it's Scope 2 emissions, counting congestion reduction as kind of Scope 2 emission. And I don't, like I said, in general, my concern is in this plan, and I realize that sustainability is sort of in its own silo in these contexts. But it seems to me that ridership on transit, even with the dirtiest diesel buses, so utterly swamps any. The ridership factor swamps any negative factors of wasteful transit versus driving, which is your main competitor. So I am concerned that a sort of monomaniacal focus on sustainability and a goal in itself without considering that every additional bus or train rider is canceling out far more waste by single occupancy vehicles, or even like in the case of Hudson County jitneys that are also highly polluted. I'm concerned that these are not being considered as appropriate factors. So I would say, in general, the goal of increasing ridership should be factored into this in a sort of a uniform, consistent way. Thank you.
Thank you, Raphael. Go ahead and mute your line and lower your hand. Thank you all for the comments received. Really appreciate you taking the time, your lunch hour, or stepping away for a moment to learn about the draft sustainability plan and to share your public comment. Currently, I don't see any hands raised. As a reminder, you can take a time to continue to digest the plan and submit these on the website, or the voicemail will continue to be open through July 7th. Okay, I'll give just one more moment to see if any comments come in for the remainder of the public webinar. Again, as a final reminder of how to comment, go ahead and raise your hand or press *3 if you're calling in. Also, if you're having some audio issues, because it seems like it's the theme of the day today, you can go ahead and use the chat. Apologies if you are having some tech issues, and thanks for your patience to find another way. We really appreciate hearing these different comments. I'll quickly share the other ways to public comment as a reminder. We have the online form found at newjerseytransit.com/sustainability-plan. We have the phone number. Again, this is 862-236-1750. We've been taking the public comments at today's webinar, and the public comment period will be open through July 7th. Not seeing any comments or raised hands at the moment. So we will go ahead and conclude today's public webinar. Would like to thank everyone for their time and for their interest to learn about the draft sustainability plan. Look forward to your comments and have a wonderful rest of your day.